Talk about getting things done early. The Toronto Raptors have already signed Brandon Ingram to an extension beyond this season, and this video will cover what that extension is and if it's a good deal for the Raptors. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content and videos like this and live streams on the channel. If you enjoyed this particular video along the way, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and maybe check out the channel for some other great videos regarding the Brandon Ingram situation that you also may enjoy. And we'll preface this by saying, look, apologies. This is the third straight Brandon Ingram video, but oftentimes when the Raptors do acquire a new player, I like to go through my first reaction to that trade. Then I like to wait a few days and maybe let it sink in and think about what the fit's actually going to look like and do that in a second video. But usually when the Raptors trade for a player, they don't sign that player to an extension pretty much immediately after that. And it was just kind of some bad timing. The video yesterday released, 18 minutes later, Brandon Ingram was revealed to have signed a 3-year extension with the Toronto Raptors worth $120 million. Over the course of this video, I'm going to cover why this contract looks the way it is as long as it is, and if ultimately it is a good trade for the Raptors. So, question marks were made by some fans when the Raptors did acquire Brandon Ingram from the New Orleans Pelicans because, after all, this was a player on an expiring contract, an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Why, oh why, would the Raptors trade a first-round pick for a player who may not even stay beyond this season? Well, naturally, there's going to be some answers like that and responses like that. But when it comes to this sort of situation, very typically, there's an understanding beforehand when a guy is more of a rental piece. And there's also an understanding in this situation, much like the Jakob Poeltl situation when the Raptors acquired him from the Spurs a couple of years ago, that the Raptors would not be making this trade, would not be making this deal unless there was something in place either immediately or down the line as far as a contract is concerned. They're not just taking a shot in the dark hoping he signs. There's an understanding beforehand from the Raptors front office in communication with Brandon Ingram that this player is going to be here beyond just this season. I told you guys not to worry about it, but I was not expecting the contract to be solved this quickly. And as a result of the contract being resolved this quickly and an extension being made rather than waiting until the end of the season, the Raptors could only go up to a 3-year extension with Brandon Ingram, and it could not have been 4, it could not have been 5 years. That could have taken place in the summer. But, you may be thinking, okay, well, they can't get a 4 or 5 year deal with the player. Why would they do this now? Why would they not just wait until the offseason? I'm going to assume that if it's taking place now, that the Raptors, number one, were comfortable with this term for Brandon Ingram. And number two, I'm going to assume that Brandon Ingram was searching for a contract that looked like this. After all, this is a 3-year deal, but it is 2 years plus a player option. So the Raptors only have Brandon Ingram locked in for 2 years beyond this season. I'm a little bit upset about the term for the contract because I would like a little bit more added security for Brandon Ingram to be on this team. But, signs are pointing towards Brandon Ingram, first of all, wanting to be here, and that's how the trade ended up happening. And also, second of all, signs are showing that Brandon Ingram is enjoying his time currently with the Raptors. So, very early prediction, but it seems to me like there is hope that when that contract does end, if things are going well for the Raptors, for Brandon Ingram, that this is going to be a much longer term relationship. But just not having that security kind of sucks, but from Brandon Ingram's perspective, I can completely understand. Look, when you look at the type of player that Brandon Ingram is, this is a high-quality player who has been an all-star. You could argue he'd have more all-star appearances if he played for a better team than the Pelicans, who just could never get healthy in the Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson era. And you could argue Brandon Ingram would have more all-star appearances if he had just played in the Eastern Conference. So this is a talented player that absolutely has the ability to be on a max contract. Certainly as he's entering his prime, which he will be doing for the Raptors. And this contract pretty much takes him through what would you consider his prime years as an NBA player. So I can understand from his perspective thinking, I feel like I can land a max contract. I am going to spend 2 years betting on that happening and earning myself that bigger deal. And again, the Raptors would not have made this trade without having already been in communication with Brandon Ingram about this and not already having an understanding. So it's not like Brandon Ingram showed up and then said, yeah, I'm only signing a 2+1 contract. Oh, geez, well, we're kind of screwed here. We're going to have to give him this term of contract. The Raptors would have not made this trade. They would not have made this trade if they were not comfortable up front with this being the contract that was in place from a year-to-year standpoint. But again, hopefully he can remain longer term. Hopefully the Raptors can put together a decent team around him and Scotty Barnes. I talked about the fit between Ingram and Scotty Barnes in the previous video on the channel. I talked about the trade in the video before that. Here, we're just focusing on the contract that was, in the end, $40 million per year. Looking at this figure here and kind of assessing the social media reaction to it, the people who cover the Raptors in a professional setting, so not myself, but like people who actually are professional reporters for the NBA and cover the Raptors, those people felt as though this contract was fair and it was about what their expectation was of this deal. I saw some people online who were very upset about this contract, but I think the only people who are upset about this contract are the people that were upset with the trade to begin with. I come from a spot where, spoiler, I like the trade if you want to go back to this video, but I like the trade and I like this contract. And when the trade was made, I felt like, look, if you're making this trade, like you have to be pretty comfortable with the idea of giving him a max or at least near a max, because the reason he's not re-signing with the Pelicans and didn't re-sign with the Pelicans is that he wanted a max contract. That is what Brandon Ingram was after. That is why he was even available in this period for the Raptors to take on. So you have to be comfortable paying him, which some people were pushing back on. Even people who like the trade, when I said that on a live stream, they're like, oh, I don't really want to pay him that much money. I think if you got to pay him that, maybe this wasn't the best trade to make. I was still comfortable with it, but I like this contract, and I like it because this is a figure I was not expecting. Like I said, I was prepared for the Raptors to pay more. The fact they got him at $40 million, like that seems good to me. Like this is Brandon's a good player, man. I know there's a history of injuries here and no question marks about overall his fit and his efficiency as a player, but I think he's a good player. And getting him less than what I thought, like $40 million, I'm a fan. I really cannot conceive a reality where the Raptors could have possibly come in any lower and gotten a signature from this guy. Like 35 million people, there's just no way the Raptors were going to be able to get Brandon Ingram for that amount of money. So 40 million seems pretty good to me, and this contract is a little bit backloaded, which will help the Raptors in the short term in the summer. Look, Barnes' max contract is about to kick in. Brandon Ingram's contract obviously will kick in now in the summer. Quickly's already been paid. RJ Barrett's already been paid. Like, you got to fill pieces around them. This will be a little bit friendlier in the short term because Brandon Ingram for the next season will be making about $38 million. In the season after that, the final secured season of this contract, he'll be making $40 million, and the player option is worth $41.9 million. At this present point, don't really know what to expect as far as whether or not he'll take that. We'll just have to see how the 2 years go with him before that decision is made. But again, this could have been a whole lot worse, and I still would have been okay with it. The fact that it is where it is, I'm happy. I think it's a good move by the Raptors. Again, I don't think they could have waited to get a longer-term deal in the summer because I just don't think Brandon Ingram was willing to get that. If Brandon Ingram was seeking a long-term deal, they would have waited till the summer and gotten this done instead. The fact that it is 3 years now showcases to me that Brandon Ingram wanted this type of deal where he could bet on himself to get a bigger contract. You have to understand that from his perspective. And on top of that, the Raptors were comfortable giving it to him, or else they would not have made this trade to begin with. Ultimately, you're trading for a player of this caliber. You want a bit more security, but at the end of the day, the Raptors traded an expiring contract in Bruce Brown, a bad contract in Kelly Olynyk, which was not expiring in the summer, and a 2026 first-round pick via the Pacers, which will likely end in the 18 to 25 range. That's my prediction of the 2026 draft. So, look, I think you got the contract a little bit cheaper than I was expecting. Again, professional reporters who cover the Raptors think this was about expected. I thought it would be a little bit higher, but hey, for that reason, I'm happy with it. They didn't trade much to make this happen, and I'm a believer that if work is done to make the right players, get the right players in to fit around Barnes and Ingram, this can be a good team. This can be a playoff team. And if you are signing, like the Raptors, last thing I'll say here, if they are signing Brandon Ingram to this sort of contract, they have to have the belief that they are going to be a playoff team next season. And it would be a big problem if they weren't, because they are investing a lot in this current team. this has got to be a team that makes the playoff next season. And if it doesn't, something has gone wrong. So sorry for all the Brandon Ingram videos, but like, I'm also not like, there's just a lot of news coming out of the player, and it's very relevant to the Raptors right now. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure you do hit that like button. If you enjoyed this video and haven't checked out my previous 2 videos, make sure you go and do that because they're also about Brandon Ingram. But subscribe to the channel for so much great Raptors content. We'll still be covering the team even amidst the All-Star break and for the rest of the season and beyond. Hit the notification bell as well so you never miss out on a drop. And I will see you again next time for another video.